Pattie Boyd's story did not begin under bright lights or screaming crowds, but in the quiet rhythms of post-war England. Born Patricia Ann Boyd on March 17, 1944, in Somerset, she grew up in a family shaped by discipline, movement, and change. Her father's service in the Royal Air Force meant frequent relocations, giving Pattie an early sense of adaptability and emotional awareness. As the eldest child, she learned responsibility young, caring for siblings, and navigating a blended family after her parents separated and remarried. These early experiences quietly formed her resilience and grace. By the time the family finally settled in England, Pattie had developed an inner steadiness that would later help her survive the unpredictable worlds of fashion, fame, and music. Long before she became a muse, she was learning how to stand on her own. London and the birth of a new icon. When Pattie moved to London in the early 1960s, the city was bursting with creative rebellion and youthful freedom. Initially working as a shampoo girl, she had no grand plan for stardom, but her natural beauty and understated confidence quickly caught attention. Encouraged to model, she soon became one of the defining faces of swinging London. Appearing in Vogue, Vanity Fair, and leading newspapers, Pattie represented a new ideal of femininity, fresh, approachable, and modern. Photographers like David Bailey and Terence Donovan helped turn her into a cultural symbol. Unlike the rigid glamour of previous decades, Pattie's look suggested independence and authenticity. She was not just modeling clothes, she was modeling a new way of being a woman in a rapidly changing world. Meeting George Harrison, Pattie Boyd's life changed forever in 1964 on the set of A Hard Day's Night. Cast as a schoolgirl extra, she met George Harrison, the quiet and thoughtful lead guitarist of the Beatles. Their connection was immediate, gentle, and sincere. George's shyness contrasted with the chaos of Beatlemania, and Pattie found his sensitivity deeply appealing. Though she initially declined his advances, their paths soon intertwined. Dating George meant entering a world few could imagine: relentless attention, global fame, and intense pressure. To the public, they became a symbol of youth and romance. Privately, Pattie was learning how isolating fame could be. Loving George meant loving someone the world felt it owned, and that reality would shape both the beauty and the pain of their relationship. Marriage in the eye of the storm. Pattie and George married in 1966 during the height of Beatlemania, but their union was far from a fairy tale. While the world celebrated them, their private life was marked by distance and adjustment. George was searching for meaning beyond fame, immersing himself in spirituality, meditation, and Indian philosophy. Pattie tried to follow him on that path, but often felt left behind emotionally. George's inner world became more important than shared domestic life. Pattie later reflected that loneliness was the hardest part, not betrayal or anger, but silence. They lived surrounded by people, yet emotionally apart. Despite the glamour of their home and famous friends, Pattie felt increasingly invisible. Love remained, but connection slowly eroded under the weight of fame and unspoken needs. The truth about George Harrison. At 81, Pattie Boyd speaks about George Harrison with clarity rather than bitterness. She does not deny his kindness, creativity, or spiritual depth, but she also no longer hides the pain she endured. George, she explains, was a man torn between earthly love and spiritual longing. His emotional withdrawal and rumored infidelities wounded her deeply, not because of scandal, but because they broke trust. Pattie describes George as gentle at his core, yet often distant and conflicted. "I adored him," she admits, "but I was often lonely." With time, she has come to understand that George's struggles were not cruelty, but confusion. Loving him meant accepting a man who was always searching, sometimes at the cost of intimacy. Her truth is not condemnation, but honesty. Eric Clapton and a different kind of love. After leaving George, Pattie's life took another dramatic turn with Eric Clapton. Their relationship, born from longing and emotional intensity, inspired some of the most famous love songs in rock history. Yet behind the music was turbulence. Clapton's devotion was passionate but overwhelming, complicated by addiction and instability. Pattie later spoke openly about how difficult it was to live in a relationship shaped by substance abuse. Though moments of tenderness existed, consistency did not. Their marriage eventually collapsed under emotional strain. Looking back, Pattie recognizes that love alone is not enough without safety and balance. Clapton's music immortalized her, but it could not protect her. This chapter taught her that intensity can feel like love, but peace is what sustains it. Finding stability and self-true happiness came later, quietly, without headlines. Pattie found stability with Rod Weston, a relationship built on friendship and mutual respect rather than fame. After decades of emotional upheaval, this partnership offered something new: calm. Pattie describes Rod as her anchor, someone who allowed her to rediscover herself beyond the roles of muse or celebrity wife. They married in 2015 after many years together, proving that love does not need spectacle to be meaningful. This phase of her life allowed Pattie to reflect, write, and heal. Distance from the spotlight gave her clarity about her past, including her marriage to George. For the first time, her identity belonged fully to her, not to history or myth. Forgiveness and perspective. One of the most striking elements of Pattie Boyd's reflections is forgiveness. Over time, she and George Harrison moved beyond resentment into understanding. They remained in contact, their relationship transforming into quiet respect. When George passed away in 2001, Pattie mourned deeply, not just the man, but the love they once shared. She acknowledges that despite the pain, George shaped her life profoundly. He introduced her to spirituality, introspection, and a broader understanding of purpose. At 81, Pattie no longer romanticizes suffering, but she honors growth. She sees her past not as something to regret, but as something that taught her who she is. Forgiveness, she believes, was not for George alone, but for herself. The legacy of a muse. Pattie Boyd's life is often framed through the men she loved, but her story is ultimately her own. She was not just a muse, but a woman navigating extraordinary circumstances with grace. At 81, her truth about George Harrison is neither scandalous nor sentimental. It is human. She speaks of love that was real, flawed, and transformative. Her reflections remind us that behind legendary music and iconic images are private lives shaped by longing, misunderstanding, and growth. Love, Pattie says, does not have to last forever to matter. It leaves lessons, echoes, and wisdom. In finally telling her full truth, Pattie Boyd offers something rare: a story of love without illusion, memory without bitterness, and peace earned through honesty.